This meeting is being recorded.
I'm going to cut my phone off. I want to welcome my guest, my brother, Darryl Malloy. And when I asked him to come on the show, I said, "You're an interesting brother." He questioned me on that. And I pointed out a lot of the things that you do, you're involved with, and as well as the activism that you have from your perspective in your way that you get involved with different things. Everything doesn't have to be rah-rah. Some things are intellectual, cultural, and it's still making a pivotal impact. So I wanted to share that, and I would like for you to introduce yourself as you would like to.
Well, I am Darryl Malloy. I am a real estate broker here in the Forney area, which is 22 miles east of downtown Dallas. I'm an art broker, and I consider myself now a community broker.
Powerful, powerful. And as I was saying, we have known each other. This is the 134th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. Also, I'm Rudy Carl Alexander, and we have known each other since the second grade. Lawrence came in the third grade, and I was sharing that all of us, myself, yourself, Howard, Lawrence, Dexter Strange, Gilbert Good, Craig Williams, all grew up. There was a time we did Olympics. Whoever got home first from school won that particular medal. Then we had long jump, different things. So we've had a history that has spanned a lot of things, a lot of perspectives, and it's a powerful thing to still be here, still be friends, still part of the community at 61 years old. And it's a blessing.
I'm not that old.
I'm sorry. That's why you are younger than me. You are younger than me, yes. Okay, Howard is, oh, wait a minute, Howard's January 31st. Sorry, Howard. I don't remember Dexter. I never remember, Gilbert had 2 different birthdays. Sorry, Gilbert. Lawrence was November the 1st. So yeah, you're in September the year before.
September, right.
Huh?
I'm in September, Dexter's in September.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so, but I mean, just in a few moments, sir.
Right, right.
Yes. So I want to share a little bit of what and how I wanted to discuss our life and what's going on today as far as the world that both of us live in. Relationships and divorce, I'd like to talk about those. Mortality and legacy. Future economic outlook, God and spirituality. But all of those things are going to talk about, we're going to mix in your artwork, Blackness that we was just talking about. That's a perspective. Black media, Tyler Perry, Black media, different things in that context. And of course, real estate. Real estate is a very important thing. My next, July the 20th, we're going to have a show on future economic outlook. And I was sharing that the crypto market, some people talk so strong about that, and we've talked about it on the show, but you don't hear too much about it anymore. And the crypto moniker is coming off of stadiums and stuff, except for the Lakers Clippers Stadium, the crypto.com center. And I personally put in $800. It's down to a value of 130. And I'm not saying it's not going to one day be something, but I don't think it's going to be what everybody thought it was going to be. Can you talk about that in the context of comparing that to the real estate market?
Well, I have not invested in crypto. I had a client last year that talked about investing in crypto, and that was a savvy investor. He talked about how he had never lost with an investment, and he had never lost to the point of going to zero. and talked about his crypto investment going all the way to zero, where he lost it all. And so it's people say because it's unregulated and all those kinds of things, it's I mean, there was a move. You don't hear as much about it as you used to about people buying real estate with crypto. I did have a client and we got an offer with crypto, but we never could find the valuation for the crypto. And then, one concern for my seller and for the title company at the time was what will be the value of the crypto at closing. So it might have one value today and say you can pay cash for the property, but at the day of closing or right after closing during that time period where you're actually closing out all the paperwork, if that value drops, what happens then? So it's a lot of unanswered questions that I think the uncertainty is what makes it the risk.
And as I was sharing, basically it's based upon spots on the computer chain, which is of course endless, but you getting a dot, a spot, a byte, whatever you want to call it. And for instance, Bitcoin, I had $200 worth, which was they said worth about 0.0.0.1%. So yes, it is really, they haven't stabilized how to evaluate it yet and to really give it some tangible meaning. So it's going to be in a state of flux. The real estate market, how is that? And I'm going to share a little bit about how I see it and what I would like to do in my particular situation. Go ahead.
Real estate market is still a seller's market. Pricing, not a lot of properties for sale. Pricing is not moving as much as it was before, but houses are moving. The days on the market have
First, explain that. You said prices are not moving as much. You mean they're more stabilized? They're not going from 230 to 260 overnight. They may go to 230 to 232.
Right. More that they're not moving as fast as they were in the past. So let's say the past we had 20, 30% appreciation. Now we're down back into that normal 3, 5, 7% appreciation in value.
Okay.
But it's still appreciating. A lot of people are kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to crash. I don't see the market crashing. I think slowing down has been what has occurred and what will occur. I know last time we talked about interest rates. Over the past 30 years, if you do the historical research of interest rates, the average interest rate is 7% over the past 30 years. So in actuality, we're right at the average. So it's not that we have a new norm. We're just back to the old norm. And especially the millennials, they haven't seen 7% interest rate their whole lifetime. So to go from a 2 to a 7 might sound like it's gone way up, but in actuality, that's the norm.
Okay, I want to share this. You know a little bit about my situation, but I've had some, of course, credit is an important thing. And things happen in life and it affects you. Sometimes, for instance, myself, I was at 620, 640, all the way up to 650. Then something happened. I had to use credit cards. Credit cards went up. And as you know, that affects your credit score. So until you can get those credit cards down, you need to get those down to, I guess, less than 40%, I would say, balance on it. Something 30%, like that.
30% balance is ideal.
Okay.
So you're at 30% or lower.
Okay.
To really your credit scores increase.
Okay. So people in the audience, people on Facebook, we always want to try to get it down to under 30% if we can, and that'll help our score. And I saw that in my own life. I think I went up 40 points when I got all my cards down. But of course, your particular situation, you have to do what you got to do and then just try to work it out, as I'm trying to do to get back to that point. But what I am going to do is at this time, now you all can't hold me to this, but I am resigning this year. If I change my mind tomorrow, That's my right.
That's real right.
I am resigning this year, and I'm planning on working in retail print for a while. The reason I'm going to work, even though I have my retirement, of course, I want to get my house while I'm working, making enough on my regular salary, plus what I have in my retirement, which is over 120. I'm not going to say the exact amount, but I said enough right there. And then I'm going to look at getting a property. But the property I want is a specific kind of property. I want a property that today I want to be able to do some things in the front of the house or in a storage, not a storage area, but a separate adjacent part of the house, and be able to do things there, as well as have a nice house that I would turn over to my kids when I'm not here no more. So what is the market? What is your suggestion for a situation like that?
Well, you can look at it a couple of different ways. You might want to look at a duplex where there are 2 units together, or you could look at a fourplex where there are multiple units. You could look at a single family home with a garage apartment.
Are you familiar with Julian Gordon?
Not by name, no.
Okay, well, he's one that promotes, of course, online. He's trying to sell you on getting a membership, and he will, I guess, guide you in buying multi-unit homes. He's totally against just the single family mortgage. He's totally against that. He says only, and you really should concentrate on a quadplex. I'd be interested in you just checking him out to see if he's a legitimate kind of source.
I'll do that.
Maybe share back with me. I share back with the audience, because a lot of people are interested in that factor. And Julian Gordon lawyers out there, I'm not saying you're not legitimate. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we want to look at the ins and outs and how it goes. Maybe pick up some ideas ourselves.
Right. I mean, there are different investment strategies out there. I mean, just from, like I said, multifamily, fourplexes, hotels, motels, storage units. There are different kinds of ways to invest in real estate.
Okay. Real estate deals with life. Life is mortality and legacy. Legacy, for me, is important. I've gone through this life, and I'm going through this life. How people, now, I'm not worried about what people think as much right now, but I would, once I'm gone, like my dad has, and your dad, your mother, they have good names.
Right.
That's important.
I think,
think of even, your mother, go ahead.
A good name, as the Bible states, is worthy of jewels. So a good name is very important, and to leave that for your children or your children's children is very honorable.
Very much so.
So to go from my mother, my father, to me, to leave something for my kids' kids based on my name is a whole lot. And the same for you.
I just want to interject. When we're talking about affirmative actions, we're talking about reparations. Those generational economics is very important. You got names like Rothstein or Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, who built
Carl,
go ahead.
I think that one of the most amazing stats shows that as African Americans, we make more money now than we ever had before. But in the 50s, when we didn't make as much money, when we almost did not have affirmative action, we owned more real estate. And so, with that in mind, it was almost as though from the 50s in the 60s, there's more legacy left than now in the 2020s, and we're making more money, but we've become this major consumer, and we're just buying up stuff that loses value immediately. And so we have to, as a people, make sure that we're making sound investments and sound spending.
We have to interject also the legacy of the things done to us in the real estate area where people have taken our land and our things illegally. So
I mean,
that has to be interjected into that argument of affirmative action and reparations also. I mean, you go back to the city of Tulsa, which I went and visited, and Black Wall Street. If you take a look at it and how it's set up and everything, they had a whole block on an area of town which was very, very valuable. And if that had not happened and it was able to flourish, it would have went all over Tulsa, probably all over Oklahoma and the whole state. So in that context, yes, we have lost a lot, but just for what we have done, that's remarkable given some of the challenges that we had as a people.
You know, what's interesting, speaking of Oklahoma, and you know, Oklahoma is known for the Indians having slaves. And when America expanded to or towards the Oklahoma area, and I can't think of what it was called, but they made the Indians move further west.
You talking about
they made the what now?
Trail of Tears. No,
that's not the. I mean, that might be what it's an actual law. I can't think of the law right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They made the Indians move and made the Indians pay reparations to the slaves in Oklahoma. That's how you ended up having a Black Wall Street, because reparations were paid. They said that the blacks own like 100 million acres. That's a whole lot of acres of land in Oklahoma. And how, you know, through time,
can you double check your audio? It's kind of cracking a little bit.
Okay.
But yes, I've been to Oklahoma, and I went to Oklahoma City. And in Oklahoma City, they have what's called the First Americans Museum. And all the tribes of Oklahoma, about 39 of them, they have, you know, promotions and presentations in this museum. And on A Brighter Source of Brighter Light, I had a lot of those pictures in the background of when I visited. And it's a great exhibit and so forth. I also went to the Oklahoma City Memorial where the bombing happened. 1/4 of those people were Black people. Some may not remember that, but and a lot of babies. Of course, there was a nursery there. So go ahead.
No, I mean, if you think about how reparations were paid in Oklahoma and how we own so much land in Oklahoma, but at the same time, as we prospered through the reparations that were there, that eventually the people came to take it back. Let's say, wasn't even there to take it, we got it from the Indians. You know, then you have the Black Wall Street, you know, the various segregation that went on and losing of things. And it's, you know, my grandparents in Alabama. I tell people how I remember going to Alabama as a kid. My grandparents had a blue house with a porch all the way around it. And it was like, as a kid, as far as you could see, they owned the land. But every year you went back to visit, they had a different house, a smaller house, and owned less and less land. And you ended up where the freeway came through, the high school came through, the project came through. They took all their land, but they just ended up with just a house. But how they used all their land, eminent domain, whatever we want to call it, to
Eminent
develop
domain.
Yeah. So it happens. It has happened, and how do we correct that? Reparations. I don't, and now we've lost affirmative action. So it's I don't
That's
know.
probably a wasted argument. I mean, it's not a wasted argument, but we have to understand that that's not going to happen. But maybe certain things like, okay, we get a tax stimulus for, those over 50 or something. I don't know. That's going to be a hard sell in this day and age also.
Right.
Are you familiar with Brother Tim Scott?
I've heard of Tim Scott. Yes.
Well, I was sharing with the audience that I do not believe with his assertion that he is not an exception as a U.S. Senator. That is an exception. There are only two in the United States Senate, himself and, well, Kamala Harris is vice president. She's still a senator, though, still has that legal status, but also Cory Booker. But that's still an exception in this day and age. And it's not a bad thing to say that because of all the challenges that we have. Now, maybe 50 years ago, it won't be an exception, and that's what we are hoping for one day. But I want to share, we are in our 60s. I'm not going to say 61. We are in our 60s. What type of legacy do we want, and what things are you doing toward that? I know you do artwork, you do community things. What type of legacy do you want to leave?
Well, Carl, that's very good because I just did the Forney Juneteenth Festival here in Forney. One of the major things that we were able to do was to raise money for scholarships and it was geared towards HBCUs. And the sad thing is, I had 3 kids, 1, 2, 3, apply for the scholarship. And then sat in meetings, they talked about how the kids were not applying to go to college. So then we offered a scholarship for the Common Black College application, which is the application you fill out that goes to 67 HBCUs. I had 0 kids apply for that, and I was going to pay for all of them. And so we have to take advantage of the opportunities. And I think, now to lose affirmative action to get into college, it's like we're starting to lose opportunities. And the opportunities, the chances will go away. And we'll be sitting on the sideline fussing about somebody not doing something for us when we haven't done anything for ourselves. And like I said, we put in the time, we put in the work. 3 people applied for one scholarship. I got another young lady for another scholarship, and both the school is looking for, I had a conversation that the school is looking for, and I'm looking for to give her some money. And neither one of us can get her to return our phone calls. Then I did give a scholarship to a young lady that's going on the HBCU tour. So she's a junior, will be a senior next year. We've talked about strategy. She plays volleyball, so we're looking to use volleyball as a vehicle as well, along with scholarship to get to college. And so we just got to develop a plan and figure it out. So for me, obviously, is education.
Of course, but as a teacher, I see the apathy and even the negativity of saying, I'm not going to try, it's a waste of time, it's boring, all of those particular things. of course, I have a 24-year-old. I have 3 kids. I have a 24-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 19-year-old that is at, she's right now at UT Arlington, about to transfer to U of H, finishing her first year in architecture. But I do see the apathy in our young people, but I attribute a lot of that to the new age of media in a lot of ways. The parents who are trying to work with their kids have so many factors that they're dealing with, and the pressure of life as a Black person affecting them. Now, all of those things, everybody deals with issues and problems, but the apathy is kind of built in, and the mindset of that's not for me and I can't do that is kind of built in also. We have to overcome that. Nobody's going to overcome that for us. We are starting to, but it's still prevalent a lot in our Black kids, because they still say, well, I want to be I want to be a singer, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a NBA player. They don't say I want to be a engineer, I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to. It's just not enough where they feel that all those things are for them and they're not the exception. So I understand where you're coming from in that, but we got to try to help them understand what the opportunities are. That's not an easy thing.
And so I'm working on, we haven't announced it yet, we're trying to do a back to school bash where we're looking to have the kids talk to the kids. So we bring in the people that won the scholarships and have them talk about being thankful for winning the scholarships and inviting others to get on board with the mentorship internships that lead to scholarships. And maybe to hear from one another versus hearing from an old man such as myself that's pushing education and maybe wanting them to be something that they don't want to be.
Well, you admitted you're an old man.
I said an older man.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm not as old as the host.
That is true. Let me go to this. I don't think we shared, really had a discussion about God and spirituality, talking about our kids. I know my 3 kids, their spirituality, their religious outlook they have not defined, at least that I'm aware of. They're still searching. I know when I was growing up, of course, my mother, who gave me all my spirit, all my identity. I'm really got my personality in a lot of ways from my mother and my father, but that caring for the people, that sensitivity that came from her. She's a Jehovah's Witness. I did not, but I went, and it gave me a certain sense of tradition, a certain way, a certain sensibility of right and wrong. Even though I don't believe in the doctrine of the faith today, I still believe in that sense of right and wrong that they instilled in me. That is important. I'd like for you to share what you feel about God's spirituality and what you have told your kids.
Wow. Well, I don't think we've ever talked about that before, Carl. So when I was in Houston, I was a young adult pastor for a number of years, dealing with people from 18 to 35. And I did a study, first of all, to develop a curriculum, and there was no curriculum for that age group. The only church that was, or religion that was addressing it, was the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church had 12 steps to becoming an adult. So I used those 12 steps as a part of my teaching. Now, the stats also said that most kids if they grow up in church, they leave church at 18. And if they make it back, if they make it back, they make it back at 32 to 35. If they don't make it back by 35, they're not coming. So we find ourselves with our kids in that over 18. My oldest daughter is about to be 32 in a little bit, but so she's in that 18 to 32 age frame, and she's in that 32 to 35 time for me to come back to God frame. And just understanding that is the stats. I mean, that's the norm. Those are normal stats we deal with. I think about, I know all of us, our group of kids in the neighborhood there, we all found ourselves mid-college, in college, looking for something more. No matter how we grew up, we were all looking for something more. And we all found something more. And that's a part of, as young people say nowadays, that's a part of adulting. It's finding something more. I think I've had a conversation with my daughters this year, and it's almost a sad conversation where I was busy being a young adult pastor, but my daughters weren't old enough to be under my leadership. So they were under someone else's leadership. And so I'm busy pouring into somebody else's kids, but my kids didn't get that same pouring into. And so in some instances, they feel as though they missed out. And so it's like there's a correction that has to go on, a repentance, a apology, just a whole bunch of things to correct those things that went on. And so we're going through that now. And I think that I'm not the only one. I think a lot of us, we went through our own stages. We tried to put things on our kids maybe our kids didn't want to go through, but based on how we lived, how we were brought up, how our parents were brought up, that was just the next step. And, the generations we're dealing with now are kind of rebellious towards being told what to do, rebellious toward rules. And so it's very interesting.
Yeah, it seems that they are. I don't remember. Well, I was bad. I was rebellious.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. So I guess we have to, in all fairness, we have to give them the same benefit that our parents gave us.
Right.
So, yeah, that.
And it's almost as though, based on the stats, we have to pray that our kids make it back between 32 and 35, and that we lived some crazy years in our 20s. We did some crazy things in our 20s. Our kids are there in that time frame. They're living their best life. We lived our best life. And even though maybe some of us made a decision earlier in our 20s, we still had to just keep them in prayer that they make it back.
Yeah.
To their relationship with God.
Well, very much so. I want to, as we're talking about kids, our life and so forth, decisions that we made as far as our mate and who we with. Let me tell this interesting part. Me and my ex, we went through the hardest times. I knew after 2 years that, okay, something is wrong here. This is a mistake. Something is a problem. And I moved out. Then I moved back in, and my first son was married. I still knew we had problems. My daughter was married, and so on. Another daughter was married. But then we got divorced after, I believe, 8 years. Finally, I knew after 2 that I shouldn't be here no more. But we did get divorced. Then we went through all of the battles and stuff of, of course, garnishment. Not me, she had to pay me. So they garnished her wages and so forth. And that was a battle right there. That was upsetting and so forth. But we went through that. We went through all of the things where her son, her older son, threatened me. And I said, if you ever put your hand on me, I'm going to kill you. And that was one time when I was serious and so forth. I'm glad that did not happen. I'm glad we got through it. But I say that to say today, we got 3 kids and we work together 1000% today for our 3 kids. I call her, she calls me 5 times a day, as well as we go on trips together. Now, we're not doing a physical thing, but we're doing a spiritual thing for our survival and our kids. And I say that to say, kids out there, couples out there, don't just be beholden to what someone else says is what you're supposed to do as far as tradition, because we had every reason not to get along and to, hate one another. But it's bigger than that. And, there's reasons we're not going to get back together and we're not going to go down that road. However, what we have is a powerful thing. We work together for our kids 1000%, as well as we support one another, because we need to have our support for one another so we can survive. She needs some money, I might help her. I need some money, she might help me to get through the week, to get through the day, whatever. If something out there upsets her, I call her to console her. I need her to survive. She needs me to survive. So I want people out there to know, don't put these labels and hold on to these positions so hard that you mess yourself up. So I just wanted to share that. Is there anything that you would like to share about the relationships and how to get along and what to do, when to leave, when to stay, anything like that?
Wow. When to leave, when to stay, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. All right. So I think the key going into marriage is understanding that it's a job. 365 days a week, a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no vacation time, no personal time, no sick days. It's a true commitment, and you won't always be happy, but the key is that person that you're married to doesn't necessarily control your happiness. So your happiness comes from within. And we can't be so easy to give up. I mean, I'm recently married, Carl, in a year and a half now. But before that, I was married for almost 30 years and then got a divorce. So, right, wrong, whatever, it happens. As you stated, after a while, it's all about the kids and supporting the kids, supporting the grandkids. But understanding when you first go in, it's work. It's not a vacation. You got 2 different people coming together. You got 2 different lifestyles, 2 different upbringings, all kinds of things that you're gelling together that won't naturally gel. And sometimes you have to work. There's some gives, some takes, some wins, some losses, but you're in it together. And it's something you have to work on together. And it's amazing lately, man, just watching a bunch of YouTube videos and various things where so many people are seeking out counseling or therapy in marriage. And so they have a mediator that kind of walks them through the differences and encourages them to stay together, whether it's good or bad times, but you just have that mediator that's kind of there along with you, help you work it out as you grow together.
So I just had a friend that was recently went to a mediator. Sometimes a mediator can't fix what can't be fixed. So let me just say that. He felt the mediator took the side of the other person. Those kind of things are going to happen. The lady might feel that the mediator is taking the man's side, so forth, so on. I just want to throw that out there. But
I totally agree. I personally went through, in my 30-year marriage, we went to maybe 3 to 4 different counselors, mediators, and it was almost as though neither one of us ever agreed on the mediator. I always felt like the mediator was on somebody else's side. And so it didn't, that didn't even work for us. So to find someone that the two of you trust and believe in and make an agreement going in that we're going to let this person mediate for us versus you brought them to the table or you brought her to the table and I might listen, I might not listen, I might agree, I might not agree, and that works out.
Well, the first thing I could say is that if both of you all go through the effort, then there's a chance, unless one or the other is just window dressing, they've already made up their mind, so
Right.
there's a chance if you are committed to trying to talk about things. Everything does stem from an understanding of communication, or let me say, an understanding of what the other person is trying to say. Because sometimes
a point of clarity.
Say again?
Everything goes from a point of clarity. If there's no clarity, then the communication can be all the communication can be. But you got to be clear on what you're communicating about. So clarity is the most important thing.
The other person, but the clarity has to click. What you're saying, and then what the person is hearing. Mm-hmm. Those things got to match, because you can say mm-hmm. something and they don't hear what you're saying. So, but you just got to keep working at it. And if you're committed to working at it, there's a chance. That's true. Yeah. We are toward the end of our program. I want to thank my brother, Darryl Malloy. We're not finished yet. I'm just doing the spiel at the end. I want to thank him. I've known him since the 2nd grade, grew up around the corner and in our neighborhood of Hillwood in Houston, Texas. And I shared we had a whole lot of activities, events, played sports, everything. And today, and I want to give you a point out to talk about at the end, your art and your outlook on that. And how did you get into that art, and what does it do? What do you see it represents? Go into that real quick before we finish. Wow, art. So I started collecting art, like I say, years ago, and kind of where I got. And so then the part of collecting it was trying to figure out how does it increase in value, let's say like the crypto. How do you trade it like crypto? And how do you actually make money from it? And so from there, I ended up going into having an art company to try and help other artists sell art. So I do what I call the ABCs of art. I have a company called Renaissance Art Collective. We do the ABCs of art. We do artist representation. We do buyer education, collector consulting. The buyer education piece is so important in getting us to understand the value of art and how art can increase in value, can be traded. Art quietly, historically, has the highest rate of return in investment, higher than stock market, higher than the real estate market. Art is like the highest performing investment vehicle out there. And so, I'll honestly say that recently, let's say the last art show I did this year was called Trains, Planes, Automobiles, and Cars. Planes, automobiles, and cars. Yes. And so what we dealt with, planes, we dealt with Bessie Coleman. Automobiles, we dealt with a guy out of Chicago that was killed. He and his wife in their car on a Sunday drive rode through the wrong neighborhood, and people got upset that they had a car and they pulled him out and killed him. We dealt with trains. We dealt with Harriet Tubman.
And so I had a painting called Harriet Tubman 2045. And when the guy first presented it to me, I said, man, my city's not ready for Harriet Tubman. But once he showed, he said, oh man, it's Harriet Tubman 2045. And so it talked about no longer trying to free the bodies, but now trying to free the minds. And I think that's where we are right now. We have to free our minds as a people to be free. You know, Emancipation Day is every day. We don't celebrate it just on Juneteenth. We got to celebrate freedom every day of the week. And we have to do that sometimes with art, because art can be your vision board. So you can I can walk through my house and look at art that motivates me, that encourages me. And sometimes we need those vision boards on our walls to keep us encouraged and to know that, hey, that piece of art on the wall is actually increasing in value every year. And that one day I can sell it for my kids or my kids' kids. Or I just came out of a class, man, where they're talking about doing a traveling art show that you can connect with two different companies, one in Europe, one in America, that will do an art show with you, a traveling art show with your art collection, and help you to get into museums where you can get paid for people to look at your art. So just like that, I know a guy that's doing it now who has a son and wants to be a movie star. And he's like, I'm instead of trying to have my son working tables and doing different things, he travels with my art and gets paid every month, every time there's an art show. And so he can do that in between acting gigs. So just understanding that art has that kind of potential for us.
Let me, I want to attribute this quote to you. Art encourages the spirit. A painting can inspire me every time I see it. Can I attribute that to you? Okay.
You can.
Okay. And give a shout out again to the place or where you do art showings, or is it a different place every time?
Well, I've partnered with the Spelman Museum of Foreign History here in the city that I'm located in. I've done art shows, art festivals, and so a lot of it, most of them based in Forney.
Okay.
And my company, Renaissance Art Collective, and we represent, man, this last show I did, I had 10 artists.
Put your art company in the group chat?
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay.
I had 10 artists in the show. 3 of the artists were 3 of the top artists in the country based out of the Dallas area. And I had about 35 pieces of art. It was honestly, even though I put the show together, it was honestly a show that was just over the top.
And what I want to share, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to ask Darryl that we put everything on a brighter source, the link for the art place that he's talking about right there. Also, connect with him for real estate. You've been in real estate how many years? It started with your father, then you continue.
Yeah, like when you think of it that way, I've been in real estate since I was 8. So I've been in real estate years or more, you know?
Well, you learned under your father, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, like I said, 50 years of real estate experience.
Okay. I want to thank Darryl again. We're at the end of our show. I'm gonna, when I go back online, I'm gonna look at Facebook. I'm gonna look at, are there any comments? If there are, I'm gonna redirect them to you, or I'm gonna just share them with you and get an answer and give a response and so forth. And we thank you for joining us. It's been a full conversation. We've talked about affirmative action, reparations. We talked about artwork. We talked about the government and different things. And so we talked about generational income. We talked about the crypto market. As I said, a very interesting brother. Thank you. Thank you, Darryl.
Thank you, Carl, for the opportunity to sit and share with you and exchange, iron sharpening iron, exchange with one another. It's been a blessing.
And we'll keep
Always.
on going. And I'll be talking to you all the time, my brother.
All
So
right, sounds
thank
good.
you. And we're going to finish, and we'll see you next time. Next time, I'm going to have the show live from Washington, D.C., July the 6th. Then
All right.
July 20th, we're going to have Future Economic Outlook. I'm Baruti Carl Alexander. This is the Sourceseeker Spotlight. Thank you. We'll see you